This is Road Noise, episode number 14, the very first episode for the new year. We're going to talk about sharper focus. Don't make resolutions, make real change. And no means no. It's all coming up on this episode of Road Noise, life 1 mile at a time. Welcome back to another episode of Road Noise. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host, Michael Blackston. If you're hearing a little bit of noise under the sound of my voice, that's the noise of the road as I travel today almost into Birmingham, Alabama, and through there into Winfield, Alabama. It's the western part of Alabama. And I've got some work there to do, and you're traveling along with me. In fact, you're riding in the passenger seat right alongside me, and we're going to have a conversation today and record it. And it's going to be episode number 14 of Road Noise, life 1 mile at a time. It's the brand new year. I've already messed up. I've gotten a late start on getting this to you. It was supposed to have been released last Friday. Well, today is Monday, January the 4th. As I record this, I'm a couple of days late getting it to you, and there have been a couple of reasons for that. Number one, it's been so busy I haven't been able to do it, and I didn't have anywhere to go last week. Everybody in my industry took the whole week off between Christmas and New Year, and I didn't have anywhere to go, so I couldn't do a Road Noise episode. And although I thought about taking my son on a drive, he would like to do an episode of this podcast with me, and I'm going to. It requires that I have a power inverter to power the microphone system that I use when there's more than two people. In fact, that power inverter system, I just bought a brand new one. The reason I couldn't take him with me and do one last week was because the one that I had, it died in the middle of the Christmas parade. We were using it to power some lights, and it was just an old thing that I've used a lot, and it died on me right as the parade was starting, and I hadn't had a chance to pick up another one. And so I didn't get to take Noah out and get that one released to you on time. So this is the first episode of the new season. It's a little bit late, but I do have a power inverter because my computer that I record straight into when I'm by myself was also just about dead as far as the battery goes, and I needed something. So when I stopped up here at the Love's, I saw some power inverters on sale. And I picked one up, and we are good to go. So the next time I have an opportunity to put my son in the car, he is really dying to get into an episode of Road Noise with me. He enjoys listening to the podcast, and I think you'll enjoy listening to me and him talk back and forth. And so he and I will take a road trip together, even if it's just driving around the county. He loves to just go out and drive with me, and we'll record one of those together here in the near future, hopefully. But today, I want to talk about a new focus. And I'm not talking about resolutions, because everybody starts out with resolutions at the beginning of the year. It's the popular thing to do, always has been. New Year's, what are your New Year's resolutions? And I used to do that, just like most people do. But a few years ago, I just quit making resolutions, because every time I would make them, it seemed like it was just the thing to do. And the first thing I did was make a list of stuff I could never get to within the year. And then I'd burn out. And I think that happens the majority of the time when you make a resolution. You have these big plans, and then you try to do it all at once, and it burns out. And we're going to talk about a little bit later on in the show the sharper focus that I'm going to start off this episode with is going to kind of meld into that don't make resolutions, make real change. And then after that, of course, we're going to talk about no means no, and it's a concept that I'm having to learn more and more as I get more and more entrenched in things that I can do and like to do. It's hard to say no, and I'm having to learn that although it's hard to say no, I need to, because if you don't say no, eventually you just are piled on. So we're going to talk about that a little bit towards the end of the podcast. But the first things first, sharper focus for 2016. There's been a lot of change that's happened in the last couple of weeks. 2016, I am looking very forward to making some leaps and bounds in some things and stopping a few things. You may or may not know, if you're a crossover listener to Q1 Go the Theater Show, you will know. But you may or may not know that I host another podcast called Q1 Go the Theater Show. And I host it alongside Tony King, who is the manager of the historic Elbert Theater in Elberton, Georgia. we have been noticing lately, as we've tried to decide on topics to talk about as far as the world of live theater, we've been noticing it's harder and harder every time to find time to do the show together because our schedules are so busy, and also to find topics when we get there, to the point that in the last couple of episodes we've kind of struggled to stay on topic. We've goofed around enough that it really didn't seem as much like a theater show as it did a comedy show. And so over this last break we had during Christmas, when she was so busy because she was directing the Christmas program, or the last show of the season, which happened to be at the Christmas season, and the show revolved around the Christmas season. Tony was directing that at the theater, while I and my wife were getting ready for a prelude to Christmas, which was the Christmas concert I told you about. We've just been so busy we couldn't find time to put together an episode of Q1 Go, and so now we're running at a month and a half, close to 2 months behind. And we like to release every 2 weeks. So when we started talking the other day, we just came to the conclusion that we believe Q1 Go has run its course. It's a sad state of affairs for us because it's a labor of love for both me and Tony. We both love the theater so much, and we love talking, and I love podcasting, and she loves doing the podcast with me and listening back to them. But we're not getting any feedback at all. The growth of the show is just not enough to warrant struggling through it, I think. And we are having trouble finding new topics. So we decided maybe it's run its course, and we've decided we're going to do a farewell episode here in the next couple of weeks. Actually, not this week, but next week, a week from tomorrow, as this is recorded. We're going to record our final farewell episode of Q1 Go, the theater show, and that's bittersweet. But I think it needs to be done. It's one of those things where everything in you wants to keep going because it's something you've created. I've spent a whole lot of time on the website and creating things for it to try to make it interesting for people. You hate to throw that stuff away. You hate to stop doing it and just toss it to the side, but sometimes it's the best thing to do. And we've decided that that's the best thing to do. Now, that is going to free a couple of things up for me, though. If you've listened to past episodes, you've heard me talking about the Artist Brainstorm. That's a new podcast I'm going to be hosting, and I'll be having guest people that I interview, other artists that I'm going to be interviewing, and we're going to brainstorm how to get their business started so that they can make some money or even a living at their passion, their craft. And the brainstorm part of it is going to be basically it's a counseling session between me and the guest and figuring out some steps that they can take, throwing some things against the wall, seeing what might be a good idea, what might not be a good idea, and coming up with a game plan that they can do step by step to get their business started. And I'm going to have, for the most part, every week a different guest. There may be some episodes where I'm by myself, and there will also, I'm sure, be episodes where I'm talking to an expert in that field that will help whoever's listening to the podcast find some even better ideas, because I want it to be something that will be helpful to people. And that kind of brings me to the other focus that I was going to talk about 2016 for this show. I'm not changing a whole lot with this show, except that I want what I talk about to be something that you can take something positive away from and then use it to help you. In other words, I don't want to just give you fluff. I don't want to just give you stuff that is a good story and that's it. I want it to be a good story. I want it to be entertaining, but I want to add an extra element of it being worthy, or not worthy, but worth something to you. I want it to be something you can take something valuable away from it. I guess that's what I want to say. I want it to be something of value to you, more than just me talking about stories of my life. Something you can find value in them and maybe apply to your own life. And so I'm hoping that that's what we can do going forward into 2016 with Road Noise, is add that extra element to it. I'm finding that this podcast is growing little by little, but it is steady every time I release a new episode. And so the more people I get, the more people I need to show that value to. So as I come up with topics, they're going to be things that, yes, they're your regular road noise fare, but at the same time, they have that added extra bonus of having some value, hopefully, to somebody who's listening. And maybe that's something you need to think about with 2016, and not as making resolutions, but as you say, look, it's a new year. We're starting here at the beginning of January. What am I going to do for the new year? How am I going to make it better than last year? Don't go so crazy as to say, I'm in poverty right now. I'm going to be one of the Forbes 500 wealthiest people in 2016. That's nonsense. That's crazy. That might happen to somebody. J.K. Rowling, who writes the Harry Potter series, she didn't have a lot when she wrote it, and all of a sudden she's a multi-billionaire, and even that took years. So don't look at 2016 as the year to make crazy stuff, but make reasonable goals, not resolutions, but goals that you can focus on, and things that are reasonable, and then build on 2016 so that it is a better year than 2015. You got more accomplished, you moved further, you built something up. But don't set goals that are so crazy that they're just not achievable. And I'm not telling you not to be a dreamer, and I'm not telling you not to think big. I'm just saying, make sure it's realistic. And so that's what I want to do for 2016 with my podcasts. I want to be good and consistent, and I want to give the kind of content that has value in it. Those are my goals for my podcasts. I'm going to have the Artist Brainstorm and Road Noise. I've got a lot of work to do on the new one, but I want Road Noise to be better this year than it was last year. And I hope that maybe you can find some value in that in your own life too, and say, whatever you've got going on, or whatever has been going on and is going on still, and you're carrying it over from 2015, how can I make it even more valuable to the people that I'm delivering it to? Think of how you can enrich people's lives, because that's really how you build success. When you're the solution to a problem, that's successful. People want to look to you as a solution to a problem they have. That is what makes a business successful. Do you offer a product or a service that is a solution to a problem? And that's going to be one of the things that I try to target in the mindset of the people with the Artist Brainstorm is what you're doing. Think of how you can overcome a problem, overcome an obstacle for people so that you're who they look for, or you're who they look to solve that problem. That instantly makes you a commodity. So that's one good way you can look at how to increase your value in 2016 is, what do I have to offer in what I'm already offering, or what more can I offer that will create a solution to somebody's problem and add value and enhance their life. And then that's kind of what when I said don't make resolutions, make real change, kind of the number 2 point that I wanted to get to in this episode. Don't just make resolutions. That's kind of empty. It's kind of cliche, to be honest with you. Everybody makes resolutions for the new year. I'm going to lose weight. And that is one of my goals and areas of focus going into 2016. But that's one of the biggies that everybody tends to want to do. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to drop that 10 pounds. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then they buy a membership to a gym, and they get up every morning, sometimes 5 o'clock in the morning, and they get out there and they just bust their butt for a couple of days, maybe even a couple of weeks, and then slowly they burn out so that by the end of January, they're not going to that gym anymore. They're finding a reason not to. Make real change in your life. Don't look at it as a resolution. Look at it as a lifestyle change. If you're trying to do something to better yourself, just making a resolution is not enough. You've got to think about it and affect a change in your lifestyle. Not, this is something I'm going to do for a while. This is a new way of life for me. And that's what's happening with me in 2016 as far as my weight goes. I've talked before about how I am losing weight, and I'm not morbidly obese or anything like that, but I do have 15 to 20 pounds, I would say, to get down to where I really need to be weight-wise. That's not really all that much when you think about it, but it's hard to get it off. Those first 5 pounds come off pretty easily, but then those last few pounds, sometimes it's hard because it requires change. It requires a mindset, a lifestyle change. And that's what I'm wanting to do in 2016. That's what I want to do. I want to change my lifestyle to say, no longer do I feel like I have got to have something sweet after something salty, or that I've got to have something salty after something sweet. Those are two of the things that happen to me, especially when I'm driving. I just feel like I have to snack. I'll need something salty or savory, and then immediately after that I feel like I need something sweet to counteract it, and then once I get to something sweet I need something salty again, and it's this vicious cycle that goes around and around and ends up putting a bunch of weight on me. I've got to stop that, and I found ways to stop that. One of the number one ways that I have found to battle that, and I found it's amazing the mindset you get into, drinking water. That's something my wife has started doing as she's began kind of the second tier of losing weight. She lost 30 pounds and kind of plateaued, and now she's back on the horse. And one of the things she's doing is making sure she gets every bit of the water she's supposed to be getting every day, her requirement of water. She's making sure she does that. And that's something I'm trying to do as well. Instead of having to have a Coke, and I mentioned having my Dr. Pepper earlier, it is a diet Dr. Pepper, which is not a whole lot better. I really should have gone with water, but I needed something kind of carbonated to tickle my throat and make it feel better as I'm feeling sick right now. It's more medicinal. Water. Nothing feels as good going down. Nothing tastes as good to me as ice cold water. Even lukewarm water is better to me once I get going with it than anything else. Yet, when I don't have anything to drink, my body tells me it wants something sweet, something fruity, a cola, something carbonated. And then once again, it's the same play over and over in my mind. I'll want that nasty stuff. I'll settle for water, and then once I get into the water, it's great. It's what I feel like I wanted. It's what my body tells me, no, this is really what you needed. It's a lifestyle change, and it's something I'm having to battle with my mind with, but I'm enjoying it. I'm not looking at it as a struggle. Podcast host that I listen to quite often, his name is Cliff Ravenscraft, and on his Life Journal podcast, Pursuing a Balanced Life, I heard him talking a couple of weeks ago about somebody who had mentioned that losing weight is a struggle that you'll always deal with. And he kind of, honestly, I thought he kind of went a little overboard with getting angry with the guy. I don't think the person was trying to be negative at all. I think he was trying to be positive, and Cliff kind of got irritated with it. But at the same time, he had a point. It will always be a struggle if that's your mindset. But if you look into what's going on in your life, and it doesn't have to be weight loss, it can be an addiction of some sort. If you go into it with this is going to be a struggle, then it will be. Or if you go into it as here's a challenge I want to tackle because I'm strong enough and I can beat this thing, that's a whole different mindset. And I think a lot of times if you have the guts and the sense of adventure and challenge, I know that I have, it becomes something you can kind of look forward to. It's an obstacle I've got to cross. It's there. There's no sense in denying it. But why does it have to be hard? Why can't it be, or not why does it have to be hard? I mean, it is what it is. Whatever your weight loss goals are, tackle them one little bit at a time. And yeah, okay, maybe it will be a challenge, an obstacle course. But if you stay the course, you'll get stronger, and you'll start enjoying that challenge. I really believe that. I believe it's something that you can make enjoyable. It all depends on how you look at it. So don't make resolutions. Make real change in your life for 2016. Don't say, I'm just going to do something because I have to make this list because it's the beginning of the year. Say, what do I really want to do in my life? What do I really want to change for the better in my life? And how can I really make those changes in my life so that I see the final product instead of just writing it down on paper and burning out on it before the end of January even gets here. Happens way too often, and I really hope that you will kind of take that next step and make an exciting change in your life instead of just some resolution. And then when I say no means no, I'm preaching to myself, really, kind of right here, because I am the world's worst at saying yes to things. Because people ask me to do it. Michael, what would you charge me to do this? I get that all the time. What would you charge me to do this for me? How much would it cost? And my first answer is always, I won't charge you. It won't cost you anything. I'll do it for you. Hey, it's like I can't help it. It's a compulsion. And that's not healthy. It's not healthy for my business. It's not healthy for my mentality. There's only so much time that I have in the day. And when I'm not working, I really owe that to my family. So anything that takes time away from my family really needs to be at a cost to the person asking me to do it. And sometimes that cost is not worth the time that it will take. So it means needing to say no. Now, I'm talking to artists here too. A lot of you artists. But I guess it really doesn't have to have an artist connotation to it. Really, if you're good at something and someone needs your service, I'm not saying to never do it. I'm just saying so many of us add so much onto our plates that we can't afford to add, and we end up getting so stressed out and angry and miserable that we should have just said no in the first place. And we tell ourselves that if I just had not taken this on, I would be a lot less stressed. So I encourage you to think about that as people ask you to do things. Don't immediately answer. You know what an acceptable answer is? You know what? Let me check my schedule and I'll get back to you as to whether I can do that or not. That is an acceptable answer. And then do it. When you get by yourself, look at it and say, look, here's what my schedule is coming up. Here's a reasonable time that I would need to get it done. Is it worth putting it into my schedule? Even if they're going to pay you, is it worth putting into my schedule? And if it's not, the answer really needs to be no. And I'm having to learn that myself. It's a hard lesson to learn. And the reason I keep mentioning artists is because we are some of the world's worst at this. Especially since in the art world, people tend to not make a lot of money with their craft. And so any little bit helps, and any little bit of exposure helps. And even sometimes we'll do things for free just hoping that it will lead to something more. And people like to tell you that. Look, I can't pay you anything, but it'll get you some exposure. You'll get some work from this. You know how much work I have actually gotten from jobs I've done for free when people said this is going to get you some work? 0. And I've done a lot of it. In the professional environment with my etching, I've done a lot of work, and most of my etching work has been at a price. You know, I was charging them for it, but they'd make that statement. You know, this is going to get you some talking about. People are going to talk about this. They're going to see it's going to get you some work. It never pans out. It never does. And I'm not saying that it will never happen. Word of mouth is one of the best ways to do that. It is one of the most solid ways to get your name out there, because word of mouth means that people like, know, and trust what you do. So it is very valuable, but just because someone says this is going to get you some work doesn't mean it's going to. You need to weigh all of those options when you're thinking about taking on a new project or service for someone, even if it's your best friend, even if it's your mother. Do I really have time to do this and do it well? And even my mother understands that. I do a lot of artwork for her for gifts because she likes it. She likes to have things that are drawn or painted. She's requested for Christmas, not this past Christmas we just finished, but the Christmas before this past one, I gave her a CD of Christmas songs that I had recorded. I sang them, recorded them, and did some editing so that they sounded rather professional. And she loved that CD, and I had done one for her before. She's requested another one with some songs on it, and that's great because she's given me enough time over the year for me to do a song at a time, get it done. I can do it with music tracks that are pre-recorded, so all I've got to do is put the vocals behind them. And that was worth it for me, because when the year comes and I've got that CD ready for her, I don't have to worry about her Christmas. She's requested that for Christmas. This is what she's getting, and it's done. And it's not only a good gift, it's something that she'll have for the rest of her life, and something that can be passed down to my kids. So yeah, in that case, it's worth it. But the little 2-letter word no can be a powerful, powerful thing. And although I'm not saying you have to say no to everything, or that you should say no to everything, I think it should be a tool in your arsenal. I think it's something you should get used to saying so that it doesn't hurt so bad when you do, and so that people do understand that that is a possibility from you. And if you're not comfortable saying, no, I just really don't have time for that right now, don't be afraid to say, let me get back to you after I check my schedule. I don't know if I can fit that in, but I will be glad to. If I can fit it in my schedule, I'll let you know. 9 times out of 10, those people will say, great, thank you so much. I appreciate the consideration. And that's all they're asking for. Now, every now and again, you'll run into one of those family members or friends that just expects you to do anything and everything for them for free. And sometimes it's some tough love that needs to be handled there. Sometimes it's just like, no, I don't have time to do that. It's okay to do that, because if you don't, and if they are kind of plowing you over and using you, because think about it, they're getting you to do something for free. That means it's probably a gift for somebody, or it's a means to their end, and they're not having to pay a red cent or do any of the work. They'll use you time and time again. That's not everybody. That's just sometimes you'll have a person who is willing to do that, and that's not somebody who cares for you at all when it happens, but it does happen. My sister-in-law will ask me to do things from time to time, and I'll always do them for her, and one of the reasons is because she will not allow me to do it for free. Whatever she asks me to do, she insists on paying me. And that can be an uncomfortable situation too, but at the same time, I appreciate it, and I never falter, or I'll never kind of have any sort of ill thought at all about anything she asks me to do, because I know she does it because she enjoys my work, she appreciates it, she does spread the word about my work, and she always insists on paying me. She's a giver, and she appreciates the work that I do. And in those cases, I am always there for her. So she's kind of the opposite of the person I'm talking about that tends to want to do the other thing. I am getting something I've never had before. I don't know if my door's not shut on that side really good, on the passenger side, or what, but I'm getting a wind, kind of a wind shear sound. I hope that's not coming over the microphone. I've got the microphone set pretty low so that I have to talk right into it, but the sounds of the car around me aren't picked up as much. I just have to kind of amplify everything later on in post-production, but I hope you're not getting that wind shear sound from the passenger side door. Anyway, this has been a rather short episode, and I think that's okay. I think it kind of needs to be. My voice is weak, very weak, from not feeling well. I just want to say I'm looking very forward to 2016. I hope you will consider listening to the Artist Brainstorm once I get that launched. It's something I'm going to be very excited about. I'm going to work very hard on it, and I'm going to want you to be a part of that. And if you're an artist and you listen to this show and you think you'd like to be a part of the Artist Brainstorm, maybe you're an artist and you would love to make an extra income or make a living doing your art. I've been doing that for nearly 10 years. I started my own business doing what I love in art. I'm a professional artist, and I have some wisdom to share, and that's what the Artist Brainstorm is going to be all about. If you're interested in possibly being a guest, please get in touch with me. And here are all the ways you can do that. First, via email, you want to contact Road Noise Podcast at gmail.com. That's roadnoisepodcast@gmail.com. Or you can call the hotline at 706-389-0401. That's 706-389-0401. And leave a voicemail there. I won't pick up. It'll go straight to voicemail, and it'll probably say Q1 Go. I've got to change all that now, especially since Q1 Go is not going to be a podcast anymore. But if you hear, this is Mike Blackston, go ahead and leave the voicemail. Just reference Road Noise when you do. And you can also get in touch with us via Facebook at Road Noise or facebook.com/Road Noise Podcast. And I'm also on Tumblr. I think I'm Michael Blackston on Tumblr, and on Twitter, I'm at Everything Arts. Lots of ways to get in touch with me. If you'll just use those 4 ways, you'll find me. And until next episode, which will hopefully be released by Friday of this week, I'm hoping to go ahead and release this episode probably either tonight or tomorrow night, and then yet another episode on Friday. So it'll be kind of 2 episodes within the week. But I want to get back on track. I want to be focused, and I want to have that sharp focus and consistency that you're looking for with this podcast. So until next time, I'm Michael Blackston. Thanks for listening to me and joining me, sitting alongside me as we drive down the road toward Winfield, Alabama, and learn to live life 1 mile at a time. With the Road Noise Podcast, I'm Mike Blackston. See you soon.